Meta has spent $135 billion on artificial intelligence this year. They fired 8,000 people to fund it. We covered that story 2 weeks ago on this channel, and it became our most watched video. If you missed it, the link is in the description. Today, the follow-up story: Meta's next-generation AI model, the one that was supposed to justify every dollar of that spending, every job that was cut, every bet Mark Zuckerberg has made, has now missed its launch deadline 3 times. It was supposed to ship in late 2025, then March, then May. The new target is June, this month. It still is not ready, but the detail that makes this story truly extraordinary, and the one almost nobody in mainstream coverage has picked up, is what Meta was considering while their engineers scrambled to fix it. They reportedly discussed licensing Google's AI to power their own products. The company that spent $135 billion building AI was going to rent a competitor's. This is that story. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what Avocado is and what Meta is trying to do with it. Avocado is Meta's next-generation large language model. It is the successor to the Llama family, the open-source AI models that Meta has released publicly over the past 3 years. Llama became the most widely used open-source AI model in the world. Developers downloaded it millions of times. Startups built businesses on it. Researchers used it to run experiments that would otherwise cost millions in API fees. Avocado is different in one crucial way. It is not going to be open source. For the first time in Meta's AI history, Avocado is being built as a proprietary, closed model, available only through Meta's own products and API. This is a fundamental strategic shift. Meta has spent years positioning itself as the open alternative to OpenAI and Google. Avocado ends that positioning. The model is being built under Meta's Superintelligence Labs division, the unit led by Alexander Wang, the co-founder of Scale AI, whom Meta acquired in a $14.3 billion deal earlier this year. Wang brought with him a philosophy of building the most capable models possible, regardless of whether they can be open-sourced. Avocado was designed to be the model that finally puts Meta in the same conversation as GPT-5 and Claude Opus. The model that proves the $135 billion infrastructure spend was not a vanity project. It has not done that. Not yet. Let us walk through exactly what happened, because the timeline tells a story. Deadline 1, end of 2025. Meta's internal target, according to sources familiar with the project, was to have Avocado ready to deploy in consumer products by December 2025. That date passed without an announcement. Deadline 2, March 20. The revised internal target reported by Reuters was March. That date passed. The reason given internally was that benchmark performance on reasoning and coding tasks was not meeting the threshold Meta needed to justify the flagship positioning. Deadline 3, May 2026. The third target. This was the one that was supposed to be the real launch. After Google I/O dominated the news cycle in May, Meta had planned to follow immediately with Avocado to recapture the AI narrative. May passed, no announcement. The current target is June 2026. This month. What specifically keeps going wrong? Sources inside Meta describe what they call nightly benchmark fires, problems that emerge at scale during training that were not present at smaller parameter counts. AI models are trained in stages of increasing size, and issues that appear at the largest scale are the hardest and most expensive to fix. Each fix requires rerunning portions of the training process, which at the scale Meta is operating costs millions of dollars and weeks of time. The specific failure areas are multi-step reasoning, reliable code synthesis, and long-horizon planning, precisely the capabilities that enterprise customers evaluate when choosing an AI model. These are not cosmetic failures. They are the core use cases. And they are the exact areas where GPT 5.5, Claude Opus 4.7, and Gemini 3.0 are strongest. Now let us talk about the money. Because the scale of Meta's AI spending is almost impossible to comprehend, and the Avocado delays make it look worse with every passing week. Meta's capital expenditure guidance for 2026 is between $115 and $135 billion. To put that number in context, it is more than the entire GDP of Kenya. It is more than Apple spent on research and development in its entire history. Where does that money go? Servers, primarily NVIDIA H100 and H200 GPUs, plus Meta's own custom MTIA chips. Data centers. Meta is building new facilities across the United States, Europe, and Asia. Power infrastructure. AI training consumes extraordinary amounts of electricity. Meta has signed agreements for dedicated power supply from nuclear and renewable sources. And people, despite the 8,000 layoffs on the operational side, Meta is simultaneously paying elite AI researchers packages worth tens of millions of dollars. The business logic behind the spending is straightforward. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp have 4 billion users. Every one of those users is a potential AI product customer. If Meta can build an AI assistant that is genuinely better than ChatGPT and distribute it to 4 billion people through apps they already use daily, the revenue potential dwarfs anything OpenAI can achieve through subscription and API alone. That is the bet. $135 billion. 4 billion users. One model that has to be good enough to make it work. And that model keeps missing its deadline. Now for the detail that tells you just how serious the situation became inside Meta. Meta executives reportedly discussed licensing Google's Gemini AI to power Meta's consumer products. Let that sit for a moment. The company that has spent $135 billion this year building its own AI. The company who has given speeches about the strategic importance of AI independence. The company that fired 8,000 people and canceled 6,000 job openings to fund this investment was going to pay Google, their competitor, to provide the AI that would run inside Meta's apps. According to sources reported by multiple outlets, the discussion was framed as a bridge, a temporary solution to keep Meta AI functional and competitive in consumer products while Avocado was brought up to standard. Use Gemini to power the experience now. Ship Avocado when it is ready. There is a word for that. That word is embarrassing. Not strategically, the decision would have been rational and probably the right call. Embarrassing because it reveals how far behind the public narrative Meta's actual AI capabilities have fallen. In the end, Meta did not license Gemini. Whether that is because Avocado made enough progress, or because the optics were deemed unacceptable, or both, the discussions reportedly ended without a deal. But the fact that they happened tells you everything about how serious the benchmark failures were. Let us talk about what the Avocado strategy means for the open-source AI community, because this is the part of the story that affects developers and researchers worldwide, not just Meta's shareholders. Meta's Llama models changed the AI industry. When Meta released Llama 2 in 2023, it gave researchers and developers access to a genuinely capable large language model they could run on their own hardware, fine-tune for their own use cases, and build products without paying per-token API fees. The impact was enormous. Thousands of products, research papers, and open-source tools were built on Llama. Llama 3.5 continues in that tradition. But Avocado ends it. For the first time, Meta's frontier model will not be available to download. Will not be available to fine-tune on private hardware. Will not be available as open weights. It will exist only as an API, access granted by Meta, terms set by Meta, data flowing through Meta's servers. The reason is straightforward. Meta has decided that open-sourcing its best model is strategically untenable when that model is the primary justification for a $135 billion capital expenditure. You cannot spend that much money building something and then give it away. For the developer community, this is a genuine loss. For years, Meta was the counter-argument to the OpenAI and Anthropic monopoly on frontier AI. With Avocado going proprietary, that counter-argument weakened significantly, at least at the frontier level. Chinese models, DeepSeek, Qwen, Kimi, are now the primary open-weight alternatives. We covered that story 2 Fridays ago. And now the detail that reframes everything we have discussed so far. Meta has already moved past Avocado. Internal documents and sources reported this week confirm that while the engineering teams scramble to get Avocado to an acceptable performance threshold for consumer launch, a parallel team is already deep into development of the next model, codenamed Watermelon. Watermelon is the model Meta actually intends to compete at the frontier. It is being built with a different architecture, a larger parameter count, and a training approach informed by every lesson from Avocado's failures. The target performance benchmark for Watermelon is not to match GPT 5.5 and Claude Opus 4.7, it is to beat them. This is the real Meta AI strategy. Avocado is a transitional step. It needs to be good enough to tell a story to the market, to satisfy enterprise customers who are watching and to justify the infrastructure spend in quarterly earnings calls. But it was never the destination. Watermelon is. And watermelon is 12 to 18 months away. This explains the 3 missed deadlines in a different light. Meta is not failing to build a good AI model. Meta is holding Avocado to a standard it was not originally designed to meet, because the goalposts of what counts as a frontier model moved dramatically in the time it took to build it. GPT-4 was the benchmark when Avocado's architecture was finalized. GPT 5.5 is the benchmark now. Those are different problems. So what does any of this mean for you? If you are a developer who has built on Llama, this is the moment to diversify. Meta will continue releasing Llama models for non-frontier use cases. But if you need the absolute best model for a production application, the open-weight era at the frontier level is effectively over at Meta. Your alternatives are Anthropic and OpenAI API, Google's Gemini AP, or Chinese open-weight models. We have covered all of those stories this month. The links are in the description. If you are a business evaluating whether to build on Meta AI, the 3 missed deadlines are a real signal about execution risk. Meta AI is currently powered by Llama 3.5 in most applications. That is a capable model, but it is not frontier class. Before Avocado ships and proves itself in production, the risk of building a business-critical workflow on Meta AI is higher than building on a product that has already demonstrated frontier performance. If you are watching this story as an investor in the broader AI ecosystem, the Meta situation illustrates something important about the AI race that the IPO narrative around OpenAI and Anthropic tends to obscure. Building frontier AI models is genuinely extraordinarily hard. Even with $135 billion, an elite team, and 4 billion users as distribution, you can still miss 3 deadlines. The companies that have gotten it right are charging premium prices for a reason. And if you are watching this wondering whether the billions being spent on AI are a bubble, Meta's struggles are actually evidence against that conclusion. The reason Avocado keeps failing to hit the frontier standard is that the frontier keeps moving. Models are getting better faster than anyone predicted. That is not a sign of a bubble. That is a sign of genuine, rapid technological progress. It just happens to be very expensive and very hard. Meta spent $135 billion. Their model has missed 3 deadlines. They briefly considered renting Google's AI to cover the gap, and they are already building the replacement. This is not a failure story. It is a story about how hard this actually is and how fast the bar keeps rising. One question for the comments. Do you think Avocado will ship in June and actually be competitive, or is this the 4th missed deadline? Drop your prediction below. I read every single one. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the most important AI story of the week explained. See you Wednesday.